Hello there, people of the internet. So, as I'm sure many of you have noticed, I have bought my fair share of military surplus firearms over the years. And in my time of doing so, I've kind of put together different things that I look for whenever I am buying a military surplus rifle, or handgun, or whatever it is that you're looking to buy. I got the hiccups, guys. I'm sorry about that. And so, as a result, I figured I'd go ahead and I would make a video talking about the things that I look for whenever I am going out to purchase a military surplus firearm. So first things first, I'm going to tell you right now that if you're buying wholesale off the internet, just random luck of the draw rifles, you get what you get. Pay attention to what the general condition of where it is that particular surplus batch has come from, and well, plan accordingly as to what it is that you think you might get. Like, for example, I've got some Swiss rifles and some Italian rifles that came from Swiss arsenals and from Italian arsenals, and those are, generally speaking, in pretty gosh darn good condition. But then there's other ones that came, like there's some Mosins from Ukraine that were some particularly rough rifles, and there are some rifles from Africa that have recently come into the country that are also in relatively rough shape. Just paying attention to where these rifles came from tends to tell you what sort of condition you can expect your particular rifle to be in if you're going luck of the draw. But if you're out and you come across something at a pawn shop or a local gun store, or grandpa needs $100 for beer, I don't know, whatever your situation is, there's a couple of things that you can look for. So the first thing you'd want to look for is, what rifle is it? That would probably be good information to know. Is it a Mauser? Is it a Mosin? Is it an Enfield? If it is an Enfield, is it a number 1 Mark III or a number 4 Mark 1? If it's a Mauser, is it a 93, 95, 96, 98? That would clue you into what kind of ammunition it takes. That's another thing to pay attention to. What kind of ammo does it take? Can you actually buy ammo for it? Is it some obscure caliber or something that you can buy, you know, by the literal pallet? Like if you're gonna go out and get yourself a 7.65 Argentine Mauser, then ammo for that can be a little tricky to find. But if you're gonna go out and get yourself an 8mm Mauser, then ammo for that is still, like, you can still buy surplus on the market for relatively cheap prices. There's just certain things like that that you want to look for. Who made it? How much is that rifle actually worth? Is it worth the price that you're paying for it? And if so, you get it, what does it actually shoot, can you get ammo for it, etc., etc. Now, as far as the rifle itself, first thing you're going to look for is you're going to, this is a good example, this is my Spanish Oviedo Mauser. First thing you're going to look for is you're going to look for general condition of the rifle. In this particular case, the wood on this rifle looks really good. I like the way the wood looks. Look for any cracks, dings, scuffs, things like that. Things that would clue you into some issues that this rifle may or may not have. If you notice your rifle has any cracks anywhere, like for example, it's very common for Mausers to have cracks on the recoil lugs. These stocks are like wood that's over 100 years old in some cases. You're going to have cracks on the recoil lugs, and you're going to have cracks oftentimes right here on the actual where you grip the rifle at. I'm going to try and use very simple terminology here for people who may not understand. Where you grip your rifle at right here will oftentimes have cracks. If you just stick a little bit of wood glue in there, then that tends to hold itself together pretty gosh darn well. Know your action's not going to come flying out of the gun, and you're not going to have any real significant issues. If you have like really minor cracks, you're still going to be able to go out and shoot your rifle. As a matter of fact, I shoot rifles that have cracks in the stock all the time. You just want to make sure that it's not in a position to make the crack worse, and you don't want the crack to get so bad that you start having issues with, you know, your action actually being held inside the rifle. But a crack would have to get really bad for that to happen. So after looking at the wood, then you look at the metal. In this particular case, this metal is all in the white, meaning there's not much bluing left. Normally on your rifles you would have some kind of finish on the metal, meaning the metal would oftentimes, for firearms, look, well, it would look black. As a matter of fact, let me find a good example for you guys. Here's a good example. This is one that I refurbished myself and redid the bluing on. If you notice, the metal on this is black, and it's very, very nice. If you see something like this, you got an old rifle with like finish on it that looks new, it might be a refurbishment. And if a rifle was refurbished, that means that it was probably like really, really, really battered and warranted needing to be completely redone. So maybe that would be something that you would want to avoid depending on who did the refurbishment. But if the finish looks original, it's got like if it looks old and it looks original, then odds are the rifle was not refurbished, and you can go ahead and feel confident that that rifle has not been put through the absolute ringer. So next, after you look at your wood and you look at your finish of your metal and your conditioning of your metal, make sure there's no real rust or pitting or anything like that, although if there is, you could clean it up if you are so inclined to. Then you test functionality. If the person selling the gun allows you to test functionality, fantastic. If not, then maybe you would want to pass on that. If it's a rimfire rifle of any kind, I would not recommend pulling the trigger to test functionality, because that firing pin actually smacks onto where that rim would be on your chamber, except instead of the rim being there, it would just smack right into the metal of the chamber, versus that soft brass that would normally cushion your firing pin, and you would risk breaking your firing pin like that. However, on centerfire rifles, there's nothing for you to hit, so you're not going to break your firing pin. So test your firearm to see if it actually works. Pull the trigger, make sure your sear drops, cycle it, pull it again. Just make sure that it looks like it would go bang. Oftentimes, you can take out your firing or your bolt, and you can look inside of the little hole to see if you can see the tip of your firing pin. Most of the time, you'll be able to, not always, but most of the time, you'll be able to see the tip of your firing pin in there, and that would tell you that your firing pin is not broken. If you are concerned about it, ask the person if you or them could take apart the bolt so you can actually look at the firing pin to see if the tip has broken off. And if it has not, then you know it's probably going to work. Make sure your safety works depending on your rifle. There's all sorts of different versions of safeties with all sorts of different rifles. In this case, it's this little thing right here, and I know for a fact it works just fine on this rifle. I refurbished this rifle myself. But make sure that works. So the functionality of the rifle checks out. The make and model rifle checks out. You know you can get ammo for it. It's a good price that you're getting the rifle at. It looks good. It's a make or model from a country that you're interested in. Fantastic. You think that you're going to go ahead and go through with it. Okay, well, that being the case, now you have to make sure the damn thing's going to actually shoot straight. Even if you bring it to the range and it goes bang, there's still no guarantee that it is going to actually hit your target. A lot of these old military surplus guns are, well, old, and you need to pay attention to the condition of the rifling inside of the barrel, because if that rifling is worn out, then your bullet won't properly stabilize. And if your bullet doesn't properly stabilize, rather than fly through the air like a football, it would like tumble, and as a result, it would be significantly less accurate. So, the best way to check your... There we go, this one's a little finicky. The best way to check your rifling is to pull out your bolt of your rifle. This way you have like a clear tube that you can look through, that tube being the barrel. And you actually want to look, remember the bolt is gone, you have confirmed there's nothing inside of the chamber, there's no way for this rifle to go off. If you don't know how firearms work, then perhaps this is a little in-depth, or a little too in-depth for you. But you're going to look down the barrel of the gun against some kind of light, and look at the rifling of the barrel. It should look like essentially cuts in the barrel that spiral through the barrel, and you want that to be like really, really visible. You want to really be able to properly see that. I wish I could show you guys on camera, but I've tried with this camera before to capture rifling, and it just does not turn out well. But if you look down a barrel, you can very clearly see the spiraling going down the barrel if the barrel looks halfway decent. If you don't see that spiraling, that means the barrel is quite worn out, and you probably don't want that rifle because it's probably not going to shoot very well. But remember, bolt removed, you need some kind of light, like shining through this side of the gun. This way you can actually look through the barrel and see the rifling. If you try looking through it like with no light whatsoever, it's just going to be dark and you're not going to see anything. Now after that, even if you do see rifling, A lot of these old guns fired corrosive ammo, and corrosive ammo wore out the rifling at the end of the rifle. So, what you're going to do, you're going to get a round that the rifle shoots. And you're going to bore test the rifle using this round. Even if there is good rifling inside the barrel, if the end of the barrel is worn out, then you're probably still going to have issues with keyholing. The reason why is because as the bullet goes down the barrel, if you have one side of the barrel that is more worn than the other, which is normally what happens as these things wore out from corrosion, then hot gas is going to escape that side of the barrel more than the other side. And as it escapes that, it's just going to push the bullet ever so slightly to the side. And as it does that, the bullet's going to come out and start tumbling as it essentially flies through the air. That's a real simplistic way of putting it. But you're going to take your bullet, the same cartridge that the firearm actually fires, and you're going to stick it into your barrel, and you want to see a little bit of bullet sticking out of the end of that barrel. Like right here, I got about 1 millimeter of copper on that bullet showing. Hopefully you guys can see that on camera, but I got that right there, and that means that as this bullet goes through the entire barrel, it's going to be engaged in the rifling through the entire length of the barrel. Now this barrel right here is quite worn out. Normally you would want it sticking out about that far, but I still feel like this right here is going to give me some relatively good accuracy because it is still engaged in with the end of the barrel there. So that is a good indicator that this rifle would probably shoot relatively straight. This one is missing a rear sight, which I'm currently sourcing. That will come down the road. So those are a couple of things that you can look for when buying your military surplus rifle. Figure out what it is, figure out what it's worth, figure out what it shoots, figure out if you can manage to get that ammo. Then after that, test it for functionality, see if it even looks good, see if it's been refurbished. This particular one does not look like it's been refurbished, it just looks like it's in really good shape. And I don't think it's been refurbished based off of the wear on the inside of the rifle. Clearly the bolt and this receiver and whatnot have been used like a lot, and if somebody would have done a rebluing process on this rifle, they probably would have reblued these surfaces as well. So that's a good indicator that this is original bluing on this rifle, and as a result that tells me that this rifle right here probably has not been put through the absolute ringer like a lot of other guns have. The wood on it is absolutely spectacular. The wood might be replacement, and if the wood is a replacement, then that's okay as long as the other things check out. The wood is not all that essential to the fundamental accuracy or functionality of your rifle for most instances. There are some cases where bedding is quite important. That's a topic for another video, I guess. But hopefully this helps you guys figure out what it is that you would want to look for if you decide to go out and buy yourself a military surplus rifle of any kind, be it self-loading, semi-automatic, bolt action, whatever it is. These same things can be seen with a self-loading rifle. Like I got a M1 carbine here. I would look over the thing. In this particular case, I know that this one is not refurbished. It is just in really exceptional condition. I know for a fact it shoots straight, but if I were to look at the rifling and bore test and function test this thing and whatnot, then all of those boxes would check out as well. So no matter what firearm you're looking at, especially the military surplus varieties, these are just some things to look at. So thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. once I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.